What is up, true believers? It's your friendly neighborhood webbed witness back at it again.
Oh, hey webhead, how's it doing? Didn't I just cover you? I do generally try not to talk about the same people more than once every couple of months. So this must be a very special occasion. I mean, when I did cover you last time, well, honestly, I kind of felt sorry for you, not gonna lie. And not in a patronizing way. God doesn't exist, no. But you appear to have had a pretty rough time of it, and I think it made me a little nicer than I usually am. And don't take my word for it, lots of commenters noticed too. Of course, some mad bastards think I'm already way too nice, which is completely baffling, but whatever. So, why have you returned so soon? Hopefully it's more, "Aww," and not, "Oh, for fuck's sake, really?"
Recently, a bigger YouTuber made a video about me, calling me a fake ex-atheist, and some of his followers flocked to my channel to basically accuse me of lying about being an atheist, and essentially their main point is, if I was a true atheist, then I would have stayed an atheist.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Damn it. It was the second one. Dude, did you watch the video? That was not my point. Not even remotely. What the hell? Are you kidding me? I took rather great pains to explain why I thought you might not have been as atheist as you thought you were. Also, I seriously doubt that was the point of most, if any, of the people who came to your channel. And while I'm sure some were nice and some were probably massive dickheads and they can go f*** themselves, I imagine flocked is probably a bit of an overstatement. But I understand even a few more comments than you expect can be a little bit jarring, so you know, it's whatever. But a problem is the fact that you released this video about 12 hours after mine published. And I just have to say, I would recommend giving it a few days after this one. Maybe then you would have enough time to see the damn thing, absorb the information within, and not make yourself look like just a bit of a dumbass.
I'm not going to say that this YouTuber is the reason I've gotten this accusation. I've gotten this accusation before by just atheists in general. This video is not going to be like a direct response of this YouTuber's video about me, but more of just a general response to this accusation that I was never a true atheist.
Well, I guess that would be a good call if you don't care to address anything resembling a substantive claim. And I guess we can doubly explain why so many people seem to think that you might not have been quite the super athy boy you thought you were. Because if I'm not the only one who thinks that about you, maybe there's a reason for that beyond we're just gatekeeping or that atheism am a religion actually. But no one would be stupid enough to say anything that earnestly, right?
We're going to talk about that and why it makes zero sense. So starting off, I'll just say your ignorance is on full display when you accuse me of lying about being an atheist because there is video proof of my atheism. And conveniently, Sir Sickle leaves out the footage of me as an atheist, which I included in the original video that he's reacting to, while calling me a fake atheist at the same time, and he leaves out the footage that I included.
Well, first off, I did not accuse you of lying. I accused you of not understanding what atheism is or what it means, because apparently you don't. And I'm sorry, you could have a video of you wearing a Carl Sagan cosplay with me and Big Atheist badge and a sash saying world's best atheist on it, and it would not have made any difference to the things that you said that made me question whether or not you were an atheist. And the fact that you think some superficial thing is going to change what I thought about your literal words, I really don't know how to help you.
So yes, the first few videos on my channel I made when I was an atheist. By that I mean I didn't believe in a higher power god. The closest we got to theism with my beliefs in those videos was believing that everybody is God in a way, that there's like a collective consciousness of sorts, and I got that belief from doing psychedelics.
Oh my shit, are you actually a parody account? That is literally not an atheist. That is anything but an atheist. Dude, this is actually way more damning than anything you said in the stuff I responded to. I mean, sure, I used a title with fake and atheist in quotes But that's because this is YouTube, and you have to make sure people understand the vibe of a video in as few words as possible. This guy was probably not an atheist because of the things he said and did and etc, etc, etc. Just doesn't have the same punch. But in the meat of the video, it's pretty clear that it's more of a doubt than a direct statement of, you were not an atheist, rah, rah, rah. But now, I'm pretty comfortable saying you really doesn't sound like you were an atheist, mate. Because according to you, you weren't. Apparently, you just don't know what the word means, which is one of my other substantive points you missed, apparently.
But ultimately, I didn't believe in a god. I didn't believe God was a personal being. I believed we were all God in a way. It was just semantics.
It is absolutely not semantic, mates. The definition of a thing, like atheist, is really rather clear and does not include people who think hippie shit like we all the God man. You don't believe anyone or anything is a god. You don't believe in gods of any description, full stop. End of definition. If you even slightly think that there's something that could even remotely be described as a god, you aren't an atheist, no matter how much you think you are an atheist. No ifs, ands, or buts.
I didn't believe in an objective God being. So if we want to get specific, it was like an atheist-leaning version of New Age spirituality, sort of, which I acquired that belief over time. I was a full atheist for a long time. That New Agey belief I had in those videos was more of a recent epiphany, and is the reason that I made those videos exposing Mormonism and exposing organized religion, because I believed I found the meaning of life.
Okay, great. That's closer to the position you claimed to hold in the last video. Now, that still doesn't change the fact that from everything you told me last time, it sounded like you did the thing a lot of theists do, which is to say, confuse not being religious anymore with being an atheist. Because again, they aren't the same thing, and it is so rare that one goes from fully religious to thinking it's all bunk overnight, especially when the reason for drifting away from your particular faith was because of the people, not the actual idea of God. There's a reason why so many people move from one religion to another when they become disillusioned with their previous faith. And it's not because they've changed God, but because they still believe in something, but assume that the auxiliary fluff was the problem. If they can find the right set of fluff, then everything will start to make sense. Usually only after a few hops or a stint in deism will most people finally conclude that they no longer believe that God is real. So, based on what you said, you didn't do that, and then hopped back into the same faith. I would argue that you likely held on to the God idea, even while calling yourself an atheist, and the fact that you told us that you regularly ask questions like, would I worship the God man if he said hi? And your answer was always yes, without any thought as to why that creature would even deserve worship. Pretty damning evidence that you likely never were. And hey, I could be wrong, but I have reasons to seriously doubt it.
That authenticity was the real meaning of life. That was the whole point of those videos. That you don't need God, all you need is to be true to yourself.
Well, that's cute and all, although again, I would imagine, whether intentionally or not, you weren't actually being true to yourself either. I mean, the fact that you hopped back into a version of the faith you left because of Spider-Man of all things, presumably with some sort of revelation, well, again, it's just kind of sus. And one of the reasons I fear that a lot of ex-atheists I see out there, when claiming that no one is really atheist at all, because deep down, I always knew. Well, if you make a later video saying something similar, just make sure there's someone ready to pick up that phone, cause I fucking called it.
So with that being said, moving on, when you point the finger at me and accuse me of lying, first of all, I'm a Christian. I have no reason to lie. If I wanted to lie, I would delete all my early videos of when I was an atheist and make up an even crazier origin story than I already have.
Aside from, again, never accused you of lying before, being a Christian does not prevent a person from being a liar. What are you talking about? Christians lie all the time, whether directly or, in my experience, most common with misrepresentation. Thankfully, you're not doing that over and over and over again. That would be incredibly ironic. But again, you don't need to lie to be wrong or to not understand something. You just have to not be paying any attention whatsoever, whether that be to me or what anything means.
Like, if I cared about having a perfect image, I would delete those videos because I say some really ugly stuff in them. If I wanted to be dishonest, then I wouldn't have gone into the specifics just barely about my beliefs of that time period. Okay, I've been nothing but upfront about my beliefs and my struggles with life and religion.
Oh, don't be simple. If you think that leaving old things you disagree with now has any reflection on that honesty now, it just doesn't. That's not how that works. And in your case, it's probably beneficial to your brand as a former atheist turned Christian. Having old videos that you can point at and say, "See, I told you I was doing an atheism." That could seem super useful as a way to deflect when people point out that it really doesn't sound like you were. But again, glad you're not trying to pull that one. And you know, even without that unlikely benefit, it's just a timeline for there and back again, a theist's tale.
And just, if you've watched my channel, you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have nothing to hide, dude. So when you call me dishonest, you're just making yourself look dumb.
And this is why I'm a little bit narked about this whole deal. Again, I never accused you of dishonesty or lying or anything of the sort. And if you really took that away from my video, well, to say calling me dumb is ironic is a bit of an understatement. But the fact that I tried to do it quite tactfully because I recognize that you've had a rough time of it, for you to then turn around and just throw it in my face, it's a little galling to say the least. And irritatingly, I'm doing it again. I haven't called you a muppet, or shit for brains, or Derpy McDurpin face, even once, and I totally could have. And you lot think Jesus is a martyr.
It just shows that you haven't actually watched any of my videos.
Irony police arrest this man. The fact that you seem to have missed the endless nuance of my video. Well, frankly, I hope you haven't watched it, because this thing makes you sound like an actual liar. Or maybe a complete idiot. Instead of simply reacting to the title and skimming through it just to see where I got up to, the double irony of it all being that I have watched several of your videos. It is why I came away feeling for you, why I was less harsh than my usual fare. And while, of course, you are under no obligation to watch my videos at all, the obligation does rear its head when you make me the subject of the video, and don't pretend like I'm not. And the other obligation I would feel is to try and understand what the criticisms actually are, instead of, you know, making them up.
And the thing is, when we actually look at this accusation for what it is, that you were never a true atheist, what does that even mean, dude? Does it mean if I ever questioned the existence of God at all, then I wasn't a true atheist?
What does an accusation I didn't make actually mean? I have no idea. It's your straw man. I'm just watching to see what happens next. And again, there's a difference between occasionally questioning if God is real and asking yourself far more pointed questions about worship and the like. But again, all I actually said was, it really didn't sound like you understood what atheism actually was or meant. And given that, the likelihood of you being able to correctly identify yourself as such, well, it's slim at best.
Of course, I eventually questioned if atheism was the truth. I didn't just throw my hands in the air and go, "That's all, folks." I kept questioning and searching for meaning, whether that meaning came from myself or from a higher power or something else entirely.
I'm glad to hear it, and I don't doubt that you did exactly that. I would just have to assume that, again, from the things that you say, you weren't all that good at it. Now, that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a genuinely challenging thing to get any good at. You have to have a lot of practice to really master critical thinking. And few do, but far too many don't even try to get past the first hurdle. And the fact that you are, or at least did try, is something to be lauded. But again, I fear that you just didn't make it all that far. And I would argue is why you ended up essentially in the exact place you started.
Okay, it was through this questioning that led me down the path of doing psychedelics. I went down this weird rabbit hole of like the pineal gland and DMT and like this new age stuff and like collective consciousness hippie stuff, just looking for some kind of meaning or like explanation for consciousness.
I honestly think the fact that you went the drug-induced meaning of truth route instead of more self-reflective, I don't want to call it intellectual, but a route that relied on your critical faculties over essentially shattering them in the hopes of a revelation. I don't know. It feels very, very God-brained of you. It's again a classic route that people who believe in something tend to take. The fact that you refuse to understand that is just a little bit weird. Honestly, if I were a betting horror, I would put one whole whiskey down on that you don't want to have not been an atheist because that would take some of the meaning out of your return. The prodigal son loses something when he was hiding in the basement the whole time.
Does being a true atheist mean I just shut my brain off and I stop looking for answers? Like, is that what you guys are getting at? That if I was a true atheist, I would have remained one my entire life? Is that what you guys are getting at?
Not what pretty much anyone is saying. And I would love to see an example of an atheist telling you that, let alone showing where I said that. Because of course I didn't, I wouldn't, and I in fact gave you some advice on how you might actually have avoided this whole thing. And since you didn't last time, I guess I'll try again. If you leave your current religious concept, please, please, please don't jump straight back into atheism. Seriously, you do not need to do it. Sit with the idea of God, any kind, because I promise you, you almost certainly won't have stopped believing. So you can really come to terms with what you really think and feel about the concept of God. And as I said last time, that might even be a God, a creator type, but you just don't have some set of instructions to go with them. And that will be absolutely fine. Maybe from there, you move religions again. Or maybe you'll start to have some of those beliefs drop away until you are actually an atheist. But at least then you'll know why you don't believe in God, instead of just stopping because the theists you knew were assholes. Oh, and did any of the atheists around you do that? Because that makes it sound like you didn't know any atheists, if you think that that is something that they would possibly do.
Because that's wild. Because I kept looking, dude. I kept searching for answers. Hence the psychedelics. Like, if you guys really want a good idea of what I, leaned towards with my beliefs, watch this video. It's called The Egg. This video, in a way, planted a seed that, spirituality was even a realistic possibility. And even so, like I said before, I still didn't believe in an objective God being.
Okay, that's something you keep saying. An objective God being. Why do you feel the need to qualify it like that? That's the kind of shit that's gonna make me think, okay, you didn't believe in an objective God being, so did you believe in a subjective God? Because I'll tell you something, that someone who even only slightly believes in a subjective God, whatever that means, well, they're not an atheist, mate. You really don't do yourself any favors with the weird wishy-washy way you choose to talk about these things. It's almost like you weren't one of the athe boys.
I believed, at most, everybody was God in a way. So if that marks the beginning of me not being a true atheist, then fair enough, dude, but you can't say I was never a true atheist because before that, I was.
That's another one. The hell is a true atheist? There aren't degrees to atheism. There aren't several characteristics that make someone mostly atheist. Or what was the other thing you said earlier? Atheist leaning. You quite literally either believe in God or you do not. The fact that you make it sound like there might be some kind of in-between, most of the way theists, thank you, I thought that was clever too, tell me you were in fact not all of the way there, making you not that thing at all.
It was a gradual progress of changing my beliefs through searching. I guess the only difference between you and me, if you're a true atheist, is I actually kept an open mind. And it's just straight up cult talk. When you say I was never a true atheist, otherwise I would have stayed an atheist. That is exactly what I get from the Mormons too.
Dude, do you have any idea how hard it is to not tell you to go yourself right now? I know you're probably going to respond with something stupid like, "Bah. I said I wasn't actually talking about you." But the fact that you opened with me and then talked about a bunch of shit I never said, I think I have the right to criticize you for a bunch of shit you're attempting to associate me and basically all atheists with. Also, if you think atheists stay atheist because they are closed-minded, that is ironically one of the most closed-minded things you could say. Most atheists become atheists because they very much are open to whatever reality ends up showing them is actually, real. And I'm sure there are closed-minded atheists, but again, you seem to be tarring all of us with the same brush, and that is a little bit messed up.
Every time I make a video on Mormonism, there's people in the comments saying, well, if you were a true Mormon, you would have stayed one because I'm a true Mormon and I stayed one, and I've done my research and I'm still a Mormon. It's the same thing, dude. Do you guys hear yourselves when you say I was never a true atheist? It's cult mentality.
I think the ultimate irony here is you have slipped right back into certain culty modes of thinking. When you get criticized by someone who's being harsh, but I think ultimately extremely apparently too fair, and your reaction is to make up what they actually said and how they act, that is exactly how groups like the morons behave. That was a misspeak and I am not removing it. But please, dude, you're so close to being better than them. Take that last step and actually do it. Also, one more thing before we go, like the Columbo of the internet that I am.
Okay, my Mormon family did not like that I was preaching atheism, but I believed in atheism wholeheartedly. I thought it was the truth to the point where I became homeless to get that message out. Because I really believed I had it all figured out.
It's extremely messed up that you became homeless just because of how you identified, but again, you can believe you are something and simply be wrong about what that thing actually is. Think about that next time you hear stories of martyrs. People let bad things happen to them for things they don't really know are the case all the time. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. Anyway, bye!